No one would have believed in 2005, when Syria withdrew its army from Lebanon, that 10 years later the Syrians would be back with all their might, not as invaders but as desperate refugees this time. Today, 1.5 million of them live in Lebanon in dismal conditions, and the country is on the brink of a humanitarian catastrophe.
Well, the situation of refugees is reaching a critical point now. We are on the brink of winter. Refugees are wondering how they're going to make it through winter. The situation in Syria is not improving. We see continued displacement in Syria. So people are losing hope, be they in Syria or in the region. People are losing hope about a solution. They wonder what is in there for them in the future.
In the last days of October 2015, the Social Democrats from Europe and the Middle East gathered together in Beirut, a city deserving to be called the centre of the global refugee crisis, to look for a solution to the problem.
We all understand how deep, how severe, how fundamental the crisis is. Because it is nice to be in Beirut, a multi-confessional, multicultural city, but just 50 kilometers from here, we have a war. We have people dying every day in big numbers. It's really surreal to speak as a European about a refugee crisis for Europe when you are in Lebanon, a country which is hosting so many refugees, and every fourth living person in Lebanon is a refugee. So we Europeans have to realize the magnitude of challenge which the Lebanese people, the Jordanians, the Turks are facing.
More and more leading European figures are saying that the EU should give money to help the countries receiving the most refugees to cope with the problem. In this way, the Syrians will be closer to their birthplaces and can easily return once the situation gets normal. The country that most urgently needs such support is Lebanon, because it has the most refugees per capita. At the same time, it has the smallest territory and is the most politically unstable and vulnerable country.
This is the country that can teach us how it is possible to host 1.5 million of refugees. We ask the European Commission to maintain, to keep and to reinforce the money for Lebanon, and politically we want to stress and to reinforce our link with our sister party.
And we need internal solidarity as well, because today some countries like Germany, like Sweden, are taking most of the refugees. And we need internal solidarity, and this relocation of people, of refugees, has to be well organized, which means we need more Europe. It's not a national problem, it's a European problem.
And I think a political solution now will save the Syrians, the world, and the Palestinians a lot of agony.
For too long period, Europe and the Middle East have not been committed to each other. We should change that.
This is incredibly important because the refugee crisis is getting worse. And if we turn our backs, we will see more lives lost, more hardship, more suffering, particularly from children.
We shall all go to refugee camps to meet these people, men, women, and children, to listen to their stories, to feel their suffering, their pain, because thousands report cannot replace your personal impression, what you see with your own eyes. And I ask you kindly then, coming back home to your countries, tell these stories to the political leadership of your parties, of your countries where we are in government, to the European institutions. They have to know it and they have to act.
In Lebanon, according to UNHCR, there are 1,078,000 officially registered Syrian refugees and a few more hundreds that have not been registered. Most of those people live in some of the 1,700 informal settlements spontaneously organized on the territory of Lebanon, mainly in the Bekaa Valley.
مشاكل والله مشاكل شتوية وتعبانين علينا فلوس ما بي وآجار وبهالشكل هذا تعبانين والله كنا مرضانين زاد ما نقدر نحس شغل ولا نشتغل. وضعنا سيء يعني حال جدا يعني. احنا جينا من صار لنا 3 سنين ما رجعنا ولا شفنا شيء ما نعرف.
يعني بيتنا راح
منطقة سفيرة قبل سفيرة.
Besides the international humanitarian organisations, many refugees rely on help from volunteer and non-government organisations. One of them is Kayani Foundation, which is headed by Noura Jumblat, the wife of the leader of the Progressive Socialist Party of Lebanon, Walid Jumblat.
Kayani Foundation is a small independent NGO who started its work, was established in 2013, and it brings education to the most vulnerable refugee children, Syrian refugee children. We are right now in an informal tented settlements. Behind me you can see the tents. These are not formal towns. These are the most vulnerable societies or the most vulnerable refugees.
والله احنا 9 أشخاص.
يعني وضعنا كثير سيء، وعندنا هاي طفلة وعندنا أطفال صغيرة.
أنا عندي 4 أطفال.
عايشين على الله، والله حارة الخبز ما في بالبيت.
If you don't stop the war in Syria, if there is not a diplomatic process in Syria whereby they can go back.
Thanks God you're good.
Yes, thanks God.
Baby looks very healthy and strong.
Yes, بين إنه قوي وصحته منيحة. الحمد لله.
Well, you can see yourself. Here there are thousands of people only in this settlement who need urgent help, food, water, education for their children, and they're all refugees from a war in Syria. This requires a very strong actions from Europe, helping the countries who host most of the refugees, but also looking for a political solution to stop the war, stop the bloodshed, so these people can go back home.